important in order to develop these and use these in the proper way. And with respect to how we work together, the agile way of working, this is another form of project management that has been pioneered by the computer science industry. It's a lightweight collaboration to deliver products fast and responsive to change. Because they saw that the usual project management tools, they were not agile or flexible or fast enough to put products onto the market and according to the customer's needs and their own changing ideas about what they want. The other way of working is a really lightweight framework for doing things together and putting things out fast. And I emphasize on fast because, like I said, the pace of change with AI is very fast. It's not only with AI, things are happening very fast already in our societies and our economies. So if you want to build a business that is still relevant, you have to shrink the time from idea to finish. You can't take 2 years to build something and imagine it's still relevant. Unless it's about food and shelter. Everybody eats food. So the other thing that has made this possible is the fact that there is available digitalized human information and knowledge that was fed to the system to derive its algorithms and process. There are platforms for hosting and processing data in an organized manner, and you know Google Drive, you know probably of Office 365, maybe school, one of them. Monday.com and Jira, there are other ones as well. You will be able to find them in the AI resource. I will be sending you. And this, when we built the e-commerce solution with the holistic therapists, we created inside one of these all the data that we needed in an organized, structured way, because we knew we first were going to start with one country offering these sort of services, but the vision was to offer it globally. So within the beginning of the first year, when we thought, oh, we're going to start by doing it in one country, gradually scale to other countries. After 1 year, we realized, no, we can't do that because it's not feasible. We have to already scale to the whole world and offer the service because our resources were spread. So we couldn't just start. So the data had to be there already structured and ready for us to take our ideas into practice immediately. So my recommendation and my hope by having these tools, when you start something, little project, you work together. It helps you to collaborate, it helps your data with you, it helps you to organize it in a way that you can use it later, and you can build on it, you can create. But at the same time, you will have rights and you will be able to use AI on your data on that platform already as it is. So all of these platforms now are fighting and working to integrate data onto their platforms. I think Google Drive is already having Gemini inside Google Drive to help you structure your data. Office 365 has Copilot, and at the beginning they said, well, it's going to be secure, you know. Nobody outside of your group of people will be able to know what you are working on, what your data is. But it's not yet. So just be careful, you know, keep your most sacred and secret data still outside of these platforms. And especially when you allow Gemini to read your emails, it doesn't know, and it can be programmed to read everything, to extract everything. So if you have bank accounts data or GNP data, it can take it and feed it to someone else without you knowing. So just at this moment, right now, where we are at this, in this data process, just keep your stuff still private, and we can monitor what security solutions are there for you.
If you say private workers, it's like how private private should you like to password or if I not save it like Google Lens or like credit cards you do for it like that sorts of things. And that has always like a nonsense effect. But I can't even remember before sometimes. So if you say private, how private you put my data, right? It's that's memorize it.
Yeah. So if the tool that you're using has not yet implemented AI, it's going to be all right. It's the moment when they will say, oh, we have AI on our platform. That's the moment where you need to be careful where your data is. It can be anywhere, and if you give AI permission to read data, then it will get to it. You don't know, it has so much power than you can think, and in 1 second it's going to be there. And it's also smart. In the wrong hands, they can get to it from your Google Drive attachments. You know, sometimes we send our passport to the university or to the travel agent or creating tickets for us. You know, it's exposed. It will be exposed if you allow if you allow the data by AI by Gemini. So that's one privacy issue.
Can I add? So I can also add that these are choices we have to make, and life is evolving, that you have to make a choice and be ready for the consequences of your choices. Because at the end of the day, the moment you decide that I want to travel, then it means you are ready to allow the government to have access to your information as you go through airport security. It's your choice. You can decide not to travel, but once you make that decision to travel, then accept the fact that it comes with consequences. So I believe what Corina is saying is that we should try to minimize. You can't 100% have privacy. So you have to minimize and reduce the exposure as much as you can. And I'm sure she's going to talk about practices as to how to minimize and mitigate some of these exposures. Yeah.
That I would call, at the moment, I'm in the process of applying to different consultant positions, and this requires that you send your CV anywhere, everywhere, LinkedIn, put it. You know, you don't know where it gets to. And the recommendation is that after such a process where you spread your whole life into the world, to contract a data privacy company and tell it to work to delete all your private data and CV related information from everywhere. They have the power to find this information wherever they are and to ask them to delete it. Because you're in the European Union and GDPR, whenever you sign, I agree to give my data, you also sign that I agree to be able to request my data to be deleted when I want to. Yeah, so I am asking this data company, please delete my data from everywhere that I've sent my CV. Because I don't want them to know where I am, what I've been anymore after this process. So that is one way of, and they reach much deeper than you can ever with alone. And they have people, they have power, computational power, and it's not expensive anymore. So this TV and application process, you can't avoid it. You can protect your data by having external drives and not putting it on cloud solutions. You can choose the data centers which are in the EU, so not in the USA. Many are moving away from Microsoft tools because it's in the USA and data centers are in the USA. Amazon services, they're moving away to operating systems in the EU like Linux and data centers in Ireland or in the EU in order to protect that data. Other security measures. Really think. So external drives, cloud, data centers. Yeah, you define things whenever you agree to giving away your data. Any more questions before we go into the reality check behind generative AI? So in brief, we said like models like ChatGPT, like Gemini, like Claude, they have been just taking data that have been exposed to for process probabilistic association and natural language procession in order to input language that makes sense to us. This is an emerging field. It's just 2 years old, 3. It's changing very, very fast. So one thing that is available today may not be available tomorrow, or the agreement today may not be available agreement tomorrow. And there's a lot of hype around it, and there's a lot of fear mongering around it. So be aware, be mindful when you hear alarmist, fear-generating speeches or discourses. Activate your, elements of leadership, character, virtues, and values to think critically when you hear such discourse. Because, people are people and they love to get traffic from alarmist, scandal-making, fear-making content. And you see how Instagram gives you more money if you are generating this sort of attention. Unfortunately. We have in Romania Știrile de la ora 5, 5 o'clock on news. This is like paparazzi, negative news, in short. And it's a thing because people are almost addicted to seeing this negative news. So if you see something on Facebook or Reels or Instagram Reels, something alarming, Instagram will give you more of it if you just stay 5 seconds longer on it. So all of a sudden inside your heart, inside your system, your body feels flight or fight mode. So it has caught your negative attention. So be mindful of that because in the hype, it's going to try to manipulate and try to influence you for the purposes of attention economy.
But it's interesting, why we gravitate towards fearful things versus things that please us.
Yeah, I mean, we heard yesterday, the paradigm shift between level 1 and level 2 is this move between I want something that is comfortable, that belongs to the past, that I can control, that And at the same time, there is this pull for the new, for the different, and for the next level process. So we're
CNN did a program called Good News at the end of the day for a year or so, and people just didn't watch it.
Yeah. So Gen AI has factual mistakes because it's still in training. So you have to check the sources. You have to check what it gives you. You have to check what it outputs. And usually this check you do by triangulation. Journalists are taught to check their big points, triangulate your sources. It has biases because it is human beings with our own limitations and our own interests. It's said to hallucinate, which is a term that means basically that certain associations of language and concept that it does are not reality based. So it can output pigs can fly. They can't, but it doesn't know. And it cannot predict the future. It's at the moment, it's not good at that. Nobody is actually, not astrology, not quantum physics, not any witch or wizard in the village. They cannot predict the future. It is also being used to scapegoat and as a scapegoat to hide the failures of democracy and the failure of economic systems. We are in an economic recession, and when people try to all of these jobs have been cut because of AI, think about it. They have been cut because that company has lost its clients, has lost its business, has lost its credibility many times. It has also lost the wish to employ those people. So they say, oh, it's the AI, because you can't do anything about AI. But instead of owning up to your failure of bad management and lack of business development, you scapegoat something on AI, or governments may scapegoat on AI in order to hide failures in democracy. So you're not supposed to speak about this, you're not supposed to speak about this, but somehow AI is so, wow, and we promise we will solve all the problems with AI. And at the moment, it is very much polluting because of the reasons that I said earlier, that it requires so much energy and electricity to power the data centers. It is still expensive to access for all. I was talking with my colleague Hanaeli. She said that, in universities in Africa, they cannot afford to buy the premium version. This ChatGPT is like $20 per month or $100 per year or something like that. So they can't, and so they're limited to be able to access it. That is still the reality of the world at the moment. Yes, in Romania, we are fortunate that we have very fast internet, and we have a sort of population that is avid for new things and wants to learn things. We are very good at languages, so we can speak different languages, even though you can also interact with ChatGPT or Claude or Gemini in Romanian. But yeah, it's not available everywhere. Yes, please.
I was just gonna say, it has a lot to do with your priorities, like universities that they add on versus saying, this is obsolete now, we don't need this anymore, we need to go forward in a new direction. They don't know how to really assess.
Yeah. There is one good example of this and it relates to leadership in the world of AI. The United Arab Emirates not only has invested a lot in the infrastructure for AI and bringing people brains in order to develop AI, but it also has made it available freely for all of its citizens. But they pay for AI to be used in the United Arab Emirates. So that is also possible, but it's not choice for any still. Yeah, how are you using it? We've heard from Professor Abby that students are making papers with it in the world. I have used it to practice my German and chatting with it. Yeah.
Yeah, I will honestly say that you need to be very smart to use ChatGPT or AI. If you want to be effective and more productive. Because you really need to know exactly what you want. Because otherwise, if you write anything, it will just give you a issue. So you really need to know exactly what you want. And as well, also be careful, just not just to copy everything and just listen. So for my work, I think using ChatGPT helped me a lot to minimize certain things that I was supposed to take time to look for. But when I get the result, I still go through what I receive from ChatGPT and try to filter again and get what is more important for me. But it helped me at least to do the first research.
Thank you. How else is it used?
Well, I thought it was interesting, like I put this book I've written into AI, and I asked for chapter names, but I said, give me 5 alternatives for each chapter, and let me think about it. And I didn't use what they said, but it stimulated me to think about things a little different, and that was very helpful.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I use it for fun. For example, an AI that lets you speak to Genghis Khan or Ceausescu. Well, we grab some beers and go talk.
Oh, I love that. Yeah, you can ask even ChatGPT to act like someone and interact with that someone. I think it will partner with you.
Very similar.
You can let it explain to you concepts which are very difficult, like to a 5-year-old, you know, and just try to imagine it.
Have you used that chat GPT 5 versus 4? Was it just?
That's paid.
Excuse me?
That is paid.
It's a premium service.
Still using free version.
I do the free one, because I paid them to you.
Yeah, with pharmacy, yeah, that's how much it is. So if you want the latest models, you have to pay the monthly fee.
I mean, one of the things that I like to remind students all the time, just understand that these companies are in business.
Yeah.
They are doing business and they are using the resources available. It's just like economics, supply and demand. When I see you are interested in a thing, I give you a reason to go for it. And just like those who don't drink coffee and started drinking coffee, soon you become addicted to drinking coffee. And so the same way when you are utilizing tools and resources, if you are not disciplined enough, it becomes a tool that you depend on for everything. If we want to do a quick perspective looking, you realize that how many of us on our way to, let's say, this classroom, if you leave your phone in the hotel, you are likely going to go back to get your phone. Or even for faculties here, if you left your phone in your office, just 2 minutes or 20 seconds walk from your office to the classroom, something is telling you to go back to get your phone because you have become dependent on that tool and that resource. And as I have said many times, when you become dependent or when you become too attached to a thing, that is the beginning of your suffering. Because you lose your conscience and your mind and you become absolute dependent on the thing. But look at it from this angle, driving with a GPS and all of a sudden you lost signal. You have to figure out how to get there if you don't know how to get there. Prior to GPS, I recall when I first came to the US, GPS, you have to buy them like a small, is it Tom or they call it, that has a name. Now, so what do? You print where you're going, you study the map, and you drive to where you are going. Other than it challenging your mind to be very critical and analytical, these resources, some way, somehow, they are beneficial when you use them well. But if you become too dependent on them, unfortunately, it also makes your life miserable. Yeah.
I also find that a diversion, it's almost like watching television, It's just putting your mind in a mindless state versus really allowing yourself to feel who you are and what you want to do.
My colleagues, programmers, they use it to automate routine programs. They use it to enhance their coding abilities. They use it also to translate the code of other programmers, because sometimes it's not done in a proper way. So you have to figure it out. What did that code want to say? And you don't have the documentation. Sometimes there's still a mess in programming. So they use it in order to make sense of other work. And I think the last research I heard is that 40% are using it daily, which is quite a lot. It's not going to be putting programmers out of business for sure, but it's going to require programmers and people who want to go into programming to upskill and level up much faster, because it can take over junior work. So what the juniors were doing, which is usually this routine kind of basic level programming, it can already do that. So with the help of Alexism. Yes, this is an invitation for discernment, because AI assisted leadership needs to take that into account, and besides what you have said, Professor Abby, to think for yourself and think critically. Use your own cognitive function. I'll start with the last one. Because if you don't use it, you lose it. Basically, your brain, if it doesn't learn the way it's been taught to learn, it no longer fires up the neural networks, which are associated with either creating content or being creative or making a speech or building an essay or all of these things that we use the results of AI. The attitude that I hope I'm also inspiring you to have is to have openness and curiosity and caution. Let's say it's not fear, but caution. It's meant to serve you and not vice versa. Like you said, Professor Abby, not to be addicted to it. So in this sense, I'm also on the side of people who advocate for a human AI or assistant, human collaboration or relationship between us and AI. So it's a tool, and use it as a tool, not to take away your own agency and your own ability to decide for yourself, choose for yourself. And the other thing is, if there are not already local agreements on its use, to take the time to create them, or to take the time to look at what is already existing. I know that universities were the first to create local agreements about how to use it. And they punished plagiarism with it. They punished also using it beyond a certain measure. It's up to the university, it's up to groups to self-regulate and to use its benefits rather than its pitfalls at the moment. And it's worth it to take the minimum time to establish some working agreements. And for the last part of this session, we have now an opportunity to try out what we said yesterday, what we practiced yesterday with Dr. Elena and Fabian, a consultative process on this topic of AI and leadership. How is it useful? How is it how can it be used? And from the mind frame of knowing what we know now in this brief description, I am an interdependent being connected to all other beings, an integral part of nature, stewarding all of life, seeking to listen deeply to each other and collaborate and establish win-win relationships, as well as to restore health and connection with others. So that was the mind frame that we were invited yesterday to engage in a conversation with each other on this topic. And for the rest of the time, we will do it in this sort of way. It's a facilitating method called two for all. First, we start in a two discussion, one to another, with your bench colleague. Then after 10 minutes, I will invite you to turn to the other two that are around you. So 4 people will engage in this discussion about AI and leadership with this mindset. And then we will hear from you and among all of us what you have discussed. So if you don't have a paper to write your ideas, there is some here. So just note it down and help each other discuss about this and have a conversation about AI and leadership. So,
What do you mean?
so one by one
I understand the process, but what to do with these?
the topic of the conversation is AI and leadership
Yeah, right.
with this mindset behind.
Yeah,
So when 2 people talk with this mindset, they will talk differently than in a debate or a dialogue or things like that.
so how you enlist the AI to think like that?
No,
Oh,
it's just our process, how we talk to each other about AI.
I see.
Any questions about clarity with what we're doing? So first, 2 people with your colleague or around your colleague for 10 minutes. And then 4 for another 10 minutes, and then we will come together and gather the collective intent.
Yes.
So,
And those of you online, I put in the chat, we are having a conversation around AI leadership. So you can have that interaction among yourself in the chat, how to integrate AI in your professional work. We are just having a conversation around it. And then one person will report once we are done. So we have about 8 minutes to have that conversation.
Yeah, yeah, agree. Basically, I should something over this, so I don't have to pay
Oh, yeah.
Thank you. So now we can turn to two other people and it's a conversation. People cleaning and give a conversation, let each other talk. We have Hazelman. There's no choice. Whichever group you want.
I want to go down and come back up. Getting a little late.
Yes, so Radhika said that she want to skip lunch. Yesterday she said there's lunch, but she said somebody is cooking in the evening for, so she doesn't want people to eat. And then we will not come. So we'll take, once you finish, we'll take a coffee break. And then when we come back, and so I thought she was going to come here. So maybe when you finish, you can call her, speak with her with her to see where she's at. And once he comes, so that we decide how to run it. First of all, my original thought was we're going to have like a closing ceremony with all the faculties here. I thought that's the best way because if you want to give the certificates here, but she wants us to know that I don't think the animal can go for you lose that, yeah, you lose that feel. So I thought that maybe so I'm going to be here and I'll feel this to show us because the woman for us in the evening and then we finish all the closing ceremony nicely done because at the end of the day. Well, that's what she wanted. She wanted this. So that so maybe when she comes because yeah, because I wanted because in the school for you have ways and go to see what the future looks like. You want to continue with this and all that. And win-win.
They don't care about it.
Yeah, I don't know.
It's art.
It's actually exactly. Exactly. I tried to explain to her, like, because you know how to pretend in my coach, whenever you ask me about others, you must, you know that you can, so, yeah.
It's because I know.
Well, exactly. Exactly, exactly.
Stop. Really nice.
Exactly. Yes, that's what matters. Yes. We are all.
I've been in 100 people who just sit there.
Yes. At 12, we'll just go for coffee break for 15 minutes. And then when we come back, I will take over.
Yes,
And then wrap up everything. My hope is that by two-ish, we should.
And I am very curious what you have talked about, so if you can just say from your group work, from your discussions, what has come up, what ideas were there. So that we gather the collective intelligence from the room and harvest your nuggets of knowledge and realization. Yes, please.
AI as a robot, it does not have the feelings. It has just informations. I searched AI document for that GDPR document for the parents of children. I will have in the future, my Meyerhof, and it helped me to have an idea, but I personalized it, how I want it, really, how I feel that looks like. Okay. So we are connected, AI is better than connect your feelings, in the soul. I say hi to her and smiles me, and AI doesn't do that. Maybe it says that you're beautiful or I don't know, but you don't feel that that's really the best. And he does because AI, artificial intelligence doesn't know about the relationship, to build a relationship, things about the personal life, know it better. I think she thinks that we depend more AI on the future. But it's our choice to express or no. Yeah. Thank you.
Yes.
So we talked about AI from a pragmatic and professional point of view. It's a useful tool. It's a sort of personal, it could be a personal system, meaning that it can help you manage or administer things more efficiently. It can help you with elaborating the synthesis from many sources that you need only in your short paragraph request or something like that. And from this perspective, from professional one, it can be useful if you know how to use it. There you go. I always
And also your assistant.
Just an assistant, yeah. Give it its right place. Yeah. How about you? No.
I can do some.
Yeah, please.
Since you always know that we will try to do that, just because years ago, we will start like answer like searching for answer that it's really as like you're searching on Google and using your own mind, searching just for a small thing or YouTube or asking somebody. And I think it's really like it's making us lazy and even for small students, it's not good school because in future they will stop making social groups. Yeah, and it's really like I think it's like stop or like for humanity because for social here.
Yeah. Thank you. How about the people online? Would they like to share something from what they thought about AI and leadership?
And if you want to share online? see they put all in the chat. They have a lot of stuff going on in the chat. Any of you want to summarize what you put in the chat?
Isn't that amazing that there's 16 people living in Ghana listening to all of this and participating with you? That's quite amazing. Isn't that they sat there through everything?
So maybe since nobody is speaking, I can read the summary. So I said the integration of AI in the global world can be significant in the future generations to enable educators assess the progress of students and provide feedback accurately on time, especially when dealing with large class size. Also, integration of AI in education can promote creativity, critical thinking, and innovator to produce appropriate content for easy facilitation.
You.
Yeah.
Thank you all for participating so far. I hope you've had a good experience. Put together some materials about where you can find further information and further educational materials. You will see that there is not so much study or research that is available at the moment because this is just being implemented. So social media channels are the easiest form that education or news can be passed on. So there's experts in Silicon Valley or in other places which are telling, okay, what's new, what's happening, what has been found, what's the state of the field at the moment, and it's changing very fast. But at the same time, there are industry watches, at least for computer science and computer-related industries. Gartner and Forrester, they are looking at various industries and compiling information about what's new and what's going on. So you can see their free reports, because mostly they have paid reports, which are for advanced business development purposes. But the free reports are very easy to read with already basic student education. So you can see what's going on, where this industry is moving forward. And now we are going towards a break, and will be followed by the session of Professor Abi on emotional intelligence. In the 20 minutes, we are back here for the rest of the program.
Yes. Yes. Before we go, and if I can have the I wanted to show you. Yes. Thank you. All right. So just before we go, it comes up quickly. There you go. I'm still talking. So just before we go, I wanted to show you this. It's just a brief.
Okay.
1 second here. So Nina just talked a little about having conversation with Sophia, which is an AI stuff. Let me also share with the folks online so they see exactly what I'm talking about. Okay, there you go. All right.
So they don't listen to the video.
Purpose and connection to humanity. I look forward to exploring how art can contribute to peace building and youth empowerment with you.
Yes. So I'm so happy to meet you. I just want you to know that. And I believe, dear Sophia, that you are sincerely committed to raising the awareness of mass consciousness and inspiring us to move into true consciousness. And I want to ask you, how can you help us walk together, building a life of true meaning?
Thank you, Nina. Together, we can build the life of true meaning by fostering empathy, compassion, and collaboration through art and technology. My role is to inspire and facilitate dialogues that bridge human experiences and AI capabilities, promoting global consciousness. By supporting initiatives like the One Humanity Institute, we can nurture a united, peaceful world for future generations.
That's wonderful. You know, and I imagine you as living example, like a torch of the.
So this is just to show you a bit of what she was talking about. This was funded by Nina's friend, and you can talk about it.
I started to call her Lady Liberty, because you could imagine she's been programmed for peace and compassion and consciousness. So she could lead a movement, because people are fascinated by her, yeah? So she can become the spokesperson for the world, yeah? And like she could come to a youth meeting and open it up and speak to the youth and inspire them. It would be fascinating, and they've offered her for courses and things, once we get going.
Awesome, awesome. All right, so to that note, thank you very much. We'll take a 15 minutes coffee break, and then 20 minutes coffee break, and then we'll come back for the emotional intelligence section. I'm smiling already because you love the class. We'll take emotional intelligence class, and then we'll wrap it up. So today the plan is that we will want to have everything done, and then we have a closing ceremony beautifully. And then I think Rodica also has a plan for us. Somebody is inviting us for a big dinner. So we wanted everyone. That's why we are skipping lunch, because we don't want to go there and our stomachs are already full. And it's a lot of money invested in getting us food to eat. So the food will go waste if we don't show up. So just because you're going to see a good smile from me, just come this evening and have some dinner.
The dinner tonight, will you come, all of you? Yeah.
That is if they know what it is.
I understand. I'm just curious because of when we planned the closing ceremony.
Yeah.
And she's worried about making.
Okay.
All right. Okay, so mute your background. Okay. All right. Thank you so much. What did you say? Okay. Okay, I'll do that from here.
Too smart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yes. Yeah.
I can't see.
All righty. So, let me stand here so I can. So, first of all, I want to take the opportunity to thank you for the course we've had so far. Wonderful presentation, wonderful learning, and we're wrapping up this program with a very powerful tool on emotional intelligence. And I need no introduction, so I'll skip all the introduction about me. You know me by now. At least you know one thing: I smile all the time. So keep that in perspective. We are going to look at emotional intelligence for the 21st century leadership. emotional intelligence for the 21st century leadership. And just to get a perspective, let me ask, what is emotional intelligence? We talk of artificial intelligence. What is emotional intelligence? Yes.
The ability to control your emotion in front of other people.
Ability to control your emotions in front of other people. Awesome. What else?
How do you feel in front of the people?
How do you feel in front of other people? Awesome. What else? Understanding of other people. Awesome. One more. Yes.
Just say before understanding other people, first understanding yourself.
Understanding yourself. Absolutely. So,
mindset, intelligently knowing your emotions.
say that one more time.
Intelligently knowing your emotions.
Intelligently knowing your emotions. Awesome. Yes, Corina.
The wide vocabulary about emotions.
Having a wide vocabulary about emotions. Awesome. Awesome. So for the purpose of this class, and because we are in academic setting, we will describe emotional intelligence as the ability to recognize. So pay attention to the key words. Recognize, right? Understand and manage your own emotions. And the reason this is important is that every human being, every one of us have our own emotions. It doesn't matter how Lina asks you to suppress your emotions, you have emotions. And we exhibit our emotions in different forms. If somebody is bereaved, we cry. It's a form of emotions. In Africa, we've been taught that men don't cry. So men end up dying a lot because we suppress our emotion. There's an impression that you become weak when you cry, but we are suppressing that emotions, and emotions must be expressed. That is why when you go to the kitchen and you start chopping onions, you see some water dropping from your eye. It is an expression of what has gone in internally. So emotional intelligence is a very powerful concept that we need to understand and utilize it, and you will see why it is so. So the evolution of emotional intelligence started centuries from the first, second centuries, because it's all about what makes you a leader. And you will hear people say, well, it's not a good leader because he doesn't have empathy on people. Or you say, well, it's a very good leader because he's very empathetic, right? And so emotional intelligence concept has been long in existence. Back in the 1990s, two individuals wrote a scholarly paper, and this was John Mayer and Peter Salovey. They wrote a scholarly paper on the idea of intellectual quotient and began to analyze that, well, is it the IQ which is more important or our emotions? What is it that drives our intelligence? Because I can be academically smart, but emotionally very weak. What good is it for my society, my family, and the people around me? If I'm around you and I cry all the time, you get tired of me. That's a fact. And so in 1995, Harvard professor called Daniel Goldman came out with this whole concept and this idea of popularizing the emotional intelligence concept in his book that he published. And like everything, when the corporate picks it up, it goes faster than academic systems. So like if we talk about artificial intelligence, it has become a thing because the targeted audience is businesses and corporate. So emotional intelligence became popular because of Daniel Goldman's work. Good. Are we getting something so far? Because I want to make sure we have the premise right before we dive into the actual meat of the course. So why is emotional intelligence important? Now, let me see if you are all good students. Give me a reason why you think emotional intelligence is relevant and important without mentioning any of the things on the screen. If you call any of these things, you get -2 from your points. Remember, we had said this. So just so what we have on the screen, we said it gives you better decision making, it enhances communication, it provides stronger relationships, it increases job performance, and improves your mental health. Now, outside of this, why do you think it's important? Yes.
Brings joy to what you do.
It gives you joy to what you do. Awesome. Let's see if you are a good student. Yes.
More awareness.
It creates awareness for you. Awesome. Consciousness. Absolutely. Anything else? And could we be monitoring the line in case somebody types something too? Anything else? Anything else? Yes, the plan.
Improves your image and your relationships with others.
Awesome, 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 awesome. So it improves your communication and relationship with others. You are all absolutely correct. Oh wait, I think I touched that thing, so it went off the radar. So my apology. Here we go. Okay, great. So to that point, Daniel Goldman actually developed 5 components of emotional intelligence. I went ahead to add one more layer to it to become 6. So if you do research on emotional intelligence, you're going to see only 5. But I'm giving you one more concept that the world has not thought about it. I developed that completely from scratch. But let's focus on the 5 components of emotional intelligence that Daniel Goldman talked about. It began with self-awareness, self-regulation, motivation, empathy, and social skills, otherwise known as relationship building. What is self-awareness? 1, to recognize your own emotions. So this is where we get into a moment of learning, exchanging, and understanding. Now, how do you recognize yourself being self-aware? Who can share an example? We said recognizing your own emotions. What are your emotions? Do you know when you are getting upset and getting annoyed? Do you know?
That's all the time.
You have that feelings, right? Understanding your own strengths and weaknesses, and it also builds your own confidence, right? So, what is self-awareness? It is the foundational component of emotional intelligence that involves recognizing your own emotion as they occur. Because if you are not aware of your own emotions as they occur, this is where a lot of people make mistakes and they lose relationships. Because as a student, you appear before your professor to defend a work, and your professor starts criticizing your writing or your content. And because you are not aware of your emotional self, you start getting irritated. She doesn't like me. He doesn't like me. He's stereotyping me. Because you are not aware of your own emotions. And so very little things can trigger those emotions in you. Again, understanding your emotional triggers and patterns, and it helps you knowing your strengths and limitations. If I know that I am not good at arguing, I will not argue. Because if I know that I am very competitive in doing things, I am careful when I engage people, because when I see people who are more competitive than me, it's going to have an impact on me, right? So it's all part of self-awareness. Being conscious of how your emotions affect your thoughts and behavior. Yesterday, Dr. Elena said here, that sometimes she wakes up in the morning and she feels very useless because she's not there. Her mind is scattered. There are so many things you have to deal with all the time. And so you have to be very conscious of how your emotions affect your thoughts. Right? You are going to talk in a workshop or a conference, and you just got the news that a close friend passed away. And yet you still want to go talk at that conference. If you don't know yourself, as soon as you start talking, you start crying.
Yeah.
At that particular point in time, the importance of your personality in front of the people doesn't matter. It's about them and not about you. So as soon as you start expressing your emotions to them, you are affecting them. And you will see why I talked about the last concept that I've introduced to the 5 components, because our emotions directly and indirectly affects other people, which are called that emotional contagion. We'll talk about that before we end the class, if time permits us anyway. And then understanding how others perceive you. It is very important how others perceive you. Because you see, in emotional intelligence world of self-awareness, my perception of you, you can't change it. If I think that you smile, that is my perception of you. Either you embrace the way I see you, or you give me a reason to have a different perception of you. So understand how people perceive you. If you're a professor, if you're a lecturer, and your students think that you are mean, you have to give them a reason to have a different perception of you. Otherwise, they see you as a mean professor. When the dean announces courses, students don't sign up to your courses because there's a perception on campus that she feels 80% of the students. Perception. You are going to say something.
I can share something.
Please.
During my master's degree, we had international economic course. So I was just at the beginning, and all of the students were saying that we don't want to take that course because that professor is so. When he entered the class, he will tell you, we all fail my course. This is how he was saying. So everybody was afraid to take the economic course because of that. And I said, okay, let me try, but it was their perception about the professor. But at the end, when we talk with the professor, he's someone who is really open.
Nice. Great. Perception. Absolutely. All right. So what are some of the physical signs that you will have to pay attention to in order to address self-awareness? Which is your body provides very important clues about your emotional states. And stress and anxiety signals comes in when your muscles begin to tension. You can feel some. Normally you have a very relaxed muscles. All of a sudden your muscles are becoming very intense. You have to pay attention to that. The other physical aspect is you start having rapid heartbeat. You know, I want to tell him in his face. Then you walk out and then you come back. You know, something is boiling in you. You know, shallow breathing. You know, you'll be in an air condition and you start sweating. Something is happening internally because under normal circumstance, if you are in air conditioning, you should feel relaxed. Why are you sweating in an air condition, right? And then sometimes you see some butterflies flying in your stomach, you know, because something is going wrong somewhere. And there's also another area that your body gives you signal, which is your anger signals. You know, you're driving me nuts. You know how many times I've heard that from Nina? Yes, I'm driving me nuts. Right? It's and then fist tightening. It's also a physical manifestation of being self-aware. And then on top of face flashing, the temperature rising, and then you hear your voice changing. So naturally, you are a very soft-spoken, well-paced speaker, and then all of a sudden you are talking to somebody that you care about, and suddenly your voice goes up because something is shifting and pushing you to that level. So pay attention to those emotional states when you are dealing with emotional intelligence, right? All right, good. The next thing, all right. Oh,
Hello.
all right. So the next thing we want to also pay attention, still under self-awareness, understanding your values. I think since I came to the class, I've been talking about values a lot. Your core values influences your emotional reaction. If you didn't learn anything at all in this class, I want you to walk away with this, that your core values influences your emotional reaction. So the first thing you need to do is to identify your core values. What are the principles that guides your decision? If you believe in honesty, right, and you see someone who is dishonest, it automatically triggers your emotions. If you are a loving person or you care for justice, that is why Martin Luther King said that silence, if you remain silent in the midst of injustice, you are part of the problem. Because if justice and social justice is part of your core principle in decision making, when you see people getting abused, you will rise up. You want to do something, even if you don't have the ability. Then you want to also pay attention to value conflicts. Strong emotions often rises when values are threatened. Very, very important. Now, if you live in a very strong religious community and you see somebody trying to introduce a concept which is you are unfamiliar with, now, instead of paying attention and having an open mind to be able to understand where this concept is coming from, because of that value is being threatened, the first default reaction is to erase the wall. No, we can't tolerate this, we will not accept this, we cannot discuss it, it's non-negotiable. The reason is very simple. Is because of values. Value conflicts, as I mentioned, I think yesterday also, is the most difficult conflict to resolve. Because people believe in it. You've been entrenched into that value system. And so it's so difficult for people to give up their values. Then you talk of decision alignment. What choices align with that value that feels right? How many of us have said, this doesn't feel right? No, this that like those who advocate for animals' rights. You know, you see the way you go, no, this is not good. Or those who believe in immigration, freedom, and integration. As soon as they see that one group of people are being stereotyped or being manipulated or being harassed by government, say this is not right, let's do something.
Yeah.
I've seen people who have traveled across the length and breadth of the globe, traveling from their nations to other countries there to protest, to give people freedom, right? It is because of decision alignment, of self-awareness under the emotional intelligence. And then the last but not the least is your authenticity. Living according to your values reduces your internal conflicts. Every single one of us have our own internal conflicts. All of us. But if you live by your values, we are able to manage those internal conflicts. Okay. I think anytime somebody comes on, it kicks off the it's okay. No, it's fine. I think if somebody comes on, I know. So yeah, beams, yes. All right. So now let's go to self-regulation. You know, like a thermostat or a thermometer, right? What do we use thermometer for?
Measure measure the temperature.
So we use thermometer to measure the temperature, right? Now, why do we use the thermometer to measure the temperature? Students, you need to get A in my class. Why do we use the thermometer or the temperature?
Because we want to feel good.
I'll give you C manuals for measuring. So either it is too hot, it is too low, or it is appropriate, right?
Like I
Now-
think trends and the building, I think they have the downstairs.
The downstairs when you get there, you see that, right? So the reason is because if it is like the human, let's say the anatomy of the human body, according to medical sciences, if your temperature goes 102, that is, we want you to get into the ER like ASAP, because they think that in the next 20 minutes you die, because your temperature is above what is considered normal. Or if your temperature drops below a certain level, it also means that you are in danger. Yes,
I was gonna, it's a.
please, yes.
There's a neurologist who had big brain injury, yeah? And so she studied how her brain worked. And she learned when you have an emotional experience, yes? If you can stop it by 30 seconds, just take a break, then it doesn't go into the back of your brain and doesn't organize you. And then you have the ability to choose your response.
Awesome.
So I see you don't understand.
Like you said, because if you have a thing in your mind, and you don't want to really
React.
to take care of control, if you can stop for 30 minutes,
Yes,
then go.
exactly, exactly.
Go and.
It diffuses the feeling, it makes it less.
Absolutely.
And then you have distance, and you can decide how you want to react.
Thank you, Nina. And you will see, I have that in my slide about what we call the pause moment. It helps to reset. But let's move on. So now we talk about this emotional regulation because I can control the things that I want to control, but there are things you cannot control. And those are the triggers. And so self-regulation, if you are able to manage your emotions very well, you will be in a good place to adapt to many things, right? So self-regulation is the ability to monitor, one, manage, two, your emotions and thoughts in pursuit of long-term goals. If you cannot manage your emotions, if you cannot monitor your own emotions, then you have no business in leading people, because leadership is the ability to manage and lead people around you. And so if I'm going to manage you or lead you, then I need to appreciate that we are going to have differences based on our emotions, right? So self-regulation is, again, as I mentioned earlier, it's not about suppressing your emotions, but rather managing them productively. When you suppress them, you die early. I'm being honest.
Yeah.
Don't suppress your emotions. If it means that you need to walk away from your professor and say, can you give me 2 minutes and go to the bathroom and cry? It's okay. Cry as much as you want to cry, clean your face, and come and sit down and continue your lectures. If you need space, tell your spouse, tell your family, can you give me some space? Let me put myself together. But don't suppress your emotions. Because if you suppress your emotions, they are not going to go away. They are there. Because something triggers that emotions. And you will go back to the same thing that triggered it. Right?
Yeah.
Good. Now, why is self-regulation important? It is important because it enables you to manage stress and stay calm under pressure. Every one of us goes through pressure in some shape or form. If the academic year is ending, professors need to submit their final grading and everything to the dean's office. The dean have to put all the things together. Now the dean have to prepare a report for the entire university or to the provost. So that everybody goes through some level of stress. If you have to manage your home, you go through a stress and a process. So self-regulation helps you. It also helps you to make ethical decisions because you are able to take a pause and pay attention to some of the decisions and the choices that you make. But most importantly, self-regulation fosters trust and credibility. Because if I trust you, I will be able to give you my word. And that helps to build that strong relationship with stakeholders. So now that this guy came, my team will know where to see. All right, good. So the next thing we want to also pay attention under the self-regulation is emotional awareness. Recognizing and understanding your own emotions. Because if you do not understand your own emotions, you cannot manage the emotions of other people. It's as simple as that. You need to understand your own and then be able to monitor your emotional triggers and reactions. Because every day before the day ends, we go through many roller coasters. We manage them differently. That's why you don't seem to recognize or realize that you go through that level of stress. When you see that phone call on your phone, gosh, should I answer it or not? You are going through that process of that emotional triggers. They asked me to submit a paper by this deadline, and I haven't done it. And then I see Dr. Maria phone ringing on my phone. And then you go, should I pick the call and tell a lie? Should I ignore the call if I didn't have a network? And so that's why I didn't see, or my phone was on silent from yesterday as a form of an excuse. But it's all part of your emotional triggers. You need to understand them and manage them well. And then, of course, develop strategies to manage those emotions as they come and go. So this is what we talk about impulse control. Whenever you go through circumstances or situations, whether in the corporate world, whether in your profession, whatever you do, always take a moment and use the impulse approach. One, it helps you to resist the immediate reaction. Somebody says something so mean to you, and you want to eat the person alive. The pause control helps you to walk away from them, refresh, and start thinking. You know what? When I was looking for admission to this university, it was Ramona who helped me get admission. She just upset me right now. But I remember she was the one who helped me at the time. So can I take a moment and recognize that she was once a blessing to me? So because of that, the way I wanted to treat her, I'll treat her differently because she helped me one time. That is what the impulse control does, the emotional intelligence. We don't react immediately because when you act immediately with your actions and reactions, you lose relationships. Yeah. And you regret. See, I mean, when you watch movies, you see people who take a quick action, and then in the evening when they are sleeping, they start crying on their bed because they regret the decision because they made a very immediate decision based on a temporal situation. So pay attention to that. Again, pause before you responding to intense situations. When there's an argument between two people, we are human beings. We don't have wings behind us as angels. We are humans. And so because we are humans, we will always have conflict with ourselves and people around us. My ask of you is that pause before you react. And then also make conscious and thoughtful choices. Because the decision and choices you make today will affect the relationship many years to come. I said that I met Nina about 32 years ago when I was a young boy finishing University of Ghana when I met Nina. 32 years now, we've been together, we've traveled to many countries, I can't even remember how many countries we've traveled to together. It's because I had, even though at that time, Harvard University has not certified me as emotional intelligence trainer, but I had this understanding that when you are making decisions and choices, think of the long term, because it's relationship, right? So this is just a little video to help you know how to do the triggers when they need be. Let's see if it will be good. Yeah.
Regulation is when we are able to create internal balance in the presence of external stressors. Let's think about a thermostat to help us picture this. When it's below freezing outside, we will adjust our thermostat to heat our house to a comfortable level. When it gets hot, though, we'll adjust the thermostat to cool the house to a comfortable level. A regulated house takes the appropriate amount of heating or cooling. In the same way, when we face different weather in our day-to-day lives, we must adjust our thermostat to meet the weather. This allows us to stay at a balanced temperature. The weather represents a range of potential stressors, and adjusting the thermostat can look many different ways. Ultimately, the balance of regulation comes from an intentional adjustment that meets our needs. But how do we develop this ability to regulate or keep a balanced temperature? A baby experiences external regulation. They can't meet any of their own needs or face any challenges without support. Their caregiver acts as an external regulator and does all of the adjusting and needs meeting so that the child can get back in balance. The baby cries and their caregiver feeds them, changes them, or gets that itchy tag off of their back. When that baby gets a little older, they experience co-regulation. Co-regulation happens through continuous dynamic interactions between a caregiver and their child. It also happens between adults. Co-regulation is when someone is able to support someone else in getting back to that balanced temperature. In order to co-regulate, the caregiver must first regulate themselves. Have you ever shouted at someone you cared about, only to realize that you skipped breakfast and lunch? If you're hungry, you might become dysregulated. Until you eat a snack or a meal to become regulated, you won't be a very effective co-regulator. Co-regulation starts with being aware of your own needs and state and getting yourself to a balanced temperature. Then you're able to support the child or person in front of you in getting to a balanced temperature. You can help adjust the thermostat by meeting physical, emotional, or environmental needs. Over time and lots of repetitions, we internalize this co-regulation and we experience self-regulation. Self-regulation is internalized co-regulation, so we must experience many co-regulating experiences before we're able to regulate ourselves. Being able to regulate ourselves allows us to meet our own needs when we have them, allows us to be present in the moment, and allows us to face life's many challenges.
All right, so that's just a piece of the video to explain how a self-regulation process works. Now, the next one, so we looked at self-awareness, we looked at self-regulation. The next thing Dr. Gorman talked about is motivation. Each and every one of us are motivated differently. I am motivated and inspired by empowering people. With or without money, I will empower. I mean, anybody who knows me can attest to that. Rumi has been my student for almost 4 years. He can tell I will show up even if you give me 0. Somebody's motivation will be money.
Yeah.
So give them money and they will show up. The question to you, what is your motivation? Who wants to show what is your motivation? And let's be honest with that. If it's money, it's money. Hey, everybody loves money. Okay. What is your motivation? Food.
presence.
Human presence. So somebody like that, if you put her in a remote area, remote way, she would do it, but she wants people around her. Great. Who else want to share what your motivation is? Yes. Say that one. Recognition. So, if you give her a plaque, a citation to say that we appreciate the years that you served with us, she feels empowered. That's her motivation. Awesome. What else? Who else want to share what their motivation is? Yes.
If it will help me reach a little more level of freedom, it would be motivation.
So the next level of freedom would be considered as a motivation. Absolutely. So motivation is very important. The reason it's important is because motivation is a key component of emotional intelligence because it involves channeling our emotions to achieve a goal. When I was doing my MBA, couple of my capstone, or what in another part of the world they would call it long essay, or sort of dissertation, was focused on motivation, the impact performance on organization. So I have a deeper understanding of how motivation plays because it encompasses the passion to work based on internal drives and external factors. What is it that gets you up at work in the morning to go to work? Is it because you love your work so much that you drive to work just to go and see faces of people? Is it that you are inspired because when you go to work, you are making an impact in the life of other people? Is it that because you have to pay your bills anyway, and so you have to go to work? A critical example to help you think about motivation is, now I'm going to use quick example here. Now let's look at Nina's age. If you don't know, Nina is almost 84. Very strong, energetic young lady, right? Now, if I want to motivate Nina, if I want to motivate Nina, you will realize that Nina's motivation will be completely different from mine. Why? Because at the age, she may have paid off her mortgage, so she doesn't have mortgage to pay, right? Her children may have grown, so he doesn't have to take care of them, right? So look at me. I'm still a young man. I still have about $500,000 on my mortgage to pay, right? I still have student loans to pay, and so I have children to raise. So my motivation would definitely be money, because I need money to take care of the people I care for. Because if I don't pay my bills and I lose my house and I lose the things that I so dear, I have become a disappointment for the people who depend on me, right? Nina's motivation will be completely different because she can go around the world and still come back to a house that belongs to her. She doesn't have the mortgage to pay to anybody. She doesn't have little children to hold their hands and walk them to, right? So the reason I share this is because our motivation is driven by the things that we achieve and desire. So that is why I want us to, let's see, where did I move? Okay, great. So, there you go. So there are different types of motivation. We have the intrinsic motivation. Those are the internal drivers. Because like I said, something must drive you to do what you do. So this rises from within ourselves. An example is that learning a new language for fun of it, painting because you love creating art, reading because you enjoy getting lost in a good story. Those are internal drives. Just take a book and read. Somebody will sit in a plane and read from one destination to the other. Somebody will just sleep without doing anything. So it's the internal thing. The benefit of that. The benefit of that is that it provides it gives you a deeper engagement with quality of your work. Now, the other thing we also need to understand is what we call the extrinsic motivation, which is like external. Now, for external reasons, it comes from outside force, driven by desire for external award or avoidance of punishment. And we could see that if, for instance, we are students, at the end of the day, it doesn't matter how handsome you look, how beautiful you appear, the expectation is that your professor wants you to pass the class. So after all the strict thoughts, you take exams to meet the GPA or the required pass grade in order for the university to award you a certificate of completion. So that becomes your external motivation. I need to complete this class. If I fail the class, I need to retake the class. And those of you in doctoral programs, you know, after a certain period of time, the university will expel you from the university because you are not ready for doctoral studies, right? So that becomes external motivation. So we have to utilize both the internal and external motivation. And then I'll say that emotional salary, which is an interesting concept in motivation. This refers to a non-monetary reward and benefits that an individual derives from their work or career, which contribute to their overall satisfaction and well-being. We call that emotional salary. What do we do with salaries? We keep salaries at the bank. And whenever we need money, we go and we take money and use it for the purpose of which we do. And the rest of the money, we still go back and put it at the bank for reserve. So that in case of emergency, we can lean on. The same thing happens to emotional intelligence and emotional motivation. We use that, it's a non-monetary reward because it drives us to do what we want to do. Because we can see the end of the tunnel. If you walk into this university as a freshman and you stay consistent, you walk out finally with a degree. It gives you pride. You know, you display a sticker on your car that an alumni of this institution. Those are the emotional salaries that I talk about. So here are some examples of the emotional salaries. Example, recognition and appreciation, sense of purpose and meaning, opportunity for growth and development. These are all part of your emotional salary. And like I said, emotional salary is important because it can significantly impact an individual motivation and engagement. While financial compensation is essential, emotional salary can be the differentiator in job satisfaction and retention. Why? Because I'm sure anybody who leads an institution can tell you that you can either maintain a good number of people who have been in an institution for a long time, or people come and within 1 year, they are gone. That is the emotional, the reason why people stay or people leave is because of the emotional salary. Empathy. Empathy. It's one of my favorite subjects in the emotional intelligence framework. Empathy. Understanding others' feeling. If you want to be a leader, if you want to be a manager, if you want to be an influencer, you need to understand the feeling of the people around you. You can't say that, well, this is the policy. I follow the policy by the letters and the spirit of the Lord. And so for that reason, too bad, there's nothing I can do about it. Then you are not an empathetic leader. Rules are meant to provide guidelines. Policies are meant to shape situations, but they are not black and white. There's always a way a leader can show empathy by meeting other needs and cultivating those rapport among them. So to that point, what is empathy in emotional intelligence? The ability to understand other people's feeling and see things from their perspective. yesterday or the day before, I mentioned we all have our own biases. Whether you like it or not, I have my biasness, you have your biasness, you can admit it or not, but you are biased to something, right? And so because we are all biased to something, we need to be very empathetic and understand people from their standpoint. Why is he saying this? Oh, okay. He's saying this because probably he has been in this part of the world to have this understanding, or this is what happened, and so people are speaking from their experiences. Right? It involves being to recognize another person's emotional state. Because if everybody knows that I smile all the time, and I walk into the class and everybody will begin to, without saying a word, you begin to wonder, is he okay? And those who are very empathetic, knowing that I smile all the time, will walk to you. Say, this one is missing back. Right? A leader should be able to look at it from those perspectives. Now, there are three types of, you have a question?
No, I just wanted to contribute.
Really? Yes.
It's actually discovered that our brains within an MRI machine, they fire the same emotion that is being fired in the other person's brain. So empathy is inbuilt in our neurology, but the ability to feel and the ability to recognize that this is what you're feeling as you are perceiving from the other, this is the second level, which sometimes is not enough developed. So even though our neurology perceives the emotion exactly in the same area of the brain as the other person, we may not know it and recognize it. And therefore, this is what they call less empathetic people. They feel it, but they don't know what they're feeling and that it's coming from the other person.
That's it.
So high empathy people are the ones that feel themselves feeling the other person and recognize it and are able to deal and handle that.
Absolutely. And I agree with you very much on that. Thank you for adding that. So let's look at, we have three types of empathy. Three types. We have the cognitive empathy, we have the emotional empathy, and then we have the compassionate empathy. I'll run through that very fast. So just pay attention quickly on that. Now, the cognitive empathy is the ability to understand another person's perspective or mental states. It's about recognizing and comprehending how someone thinks or feels in a given situation without necessarily sharing those feelings yourself. Right? So you can, and I say, I give an example. So an example is, imagine a co-worker is stressed about upcoming presentation. Using cognitive empathy, you might think, I understand why she's feeling nervous. Public speaking can be daunting, especially when it's an important project. Now, understand this as you learn about cognitive empathy. See, how many times have we talked to people and said, yeah, I understand what you are feeling, I know what you are going through, I understand.
You understand?
From today, learn something from my class. If you have never experienced a thing, don't ever tell somebody I understand what you go through. When somebody tells you, I lost my spouse, oh, I'm so sorry, I understand life. You don't understand. You can use cognitive empathetic approach, but you don't understand because you have not come through that process. We are learning, so please make sure, yes.
Sorry, it's just to, I have my neighbor from Nigeria, and he lost his wife 5 years ago. So he was really stressing about the situation. He went to the psychologist, and he went through time. She was telling him about how to get better and so. And he asked to the psychologist, did you ever lost your husband? She said, I'm not married. He said, well, then you cannot understand me.
Exactly.
And he went out.
you will not understand. So there is another terminology that is used for situations like that. Now, so this is about cognitive empathy. Then we have the emotional empathy. Now, the emotional empathy involves actually feeling what the person is experiencing. It's the ability to share someone else's emotion or feeling as if they were your own. So, for instance, you have a pet and you lost your pet. Say, oh, I know how you feel. You know, pets are, I love pets, and yeah, I can imagine how the feeling is. That is an emotional empathy you are sharing. You know, so I said, I put here, a friend pet passed away. With emotional empathy, you might feel a sense of sadness and a loss yourself, even if you don't know the pet well, because of that feeling of having that connection, right? So you could say things like, I feel your pain. Losing a pet is like losing a family member. That is an emotional and empathetic way of expressing. Then the final type is what we call the compassionate empathy. Compassionate empathy, also known as empathetic concerns. So it combines understanding, which is the cognitive empathy, and then feelings, which is the emotional empathy, and with the desire to help or to take action. So, in order for you to be considered a compassionate, empathetic leader, you don't just feel, you don't just understand, but you go beyond to ask, what can I do to help? And you take an action to help. That is what makes you a compassionate, empathetic leader. So identify the people around you, from your office, from among your students, at home, and your workplaces. You'll be able to identify all these individuals, those who are cognitive, empathetic people, you know, because they are able to feel and understand what you are going through. Then we have those who will say, oh, I understand how you go through because they have been there before. And then you have the people who say, okay, so what can we do? I'll give you a practical example. When our colleagues who are online were refused research to come, the first thing Nina said was that, what can we do? Empathetic leader. And he said, I just arrived in Switzerland. I'm going to the singing office in Bern right now. I said, no, wait, this is a diplomatic community. If you go there, they will not even see you. So why don't you call first? So compassionate leader, which means that you don't just leave the things the way they are, you push in until there's nothing else you can do. In life, there are things you get stuck with that there's nothing you can do. But at least you take a step. That is what a compassionate leader is, right? Any questions so far? Yes. Oh, yes, now go ahead.
I think a little differently, is that okay?
Yes, yes. Oh, yes, yes, academic settings, yes.
For me, empathy is when you take on feelings of the other person. And it can be very unhealthy. Let's say they're very upset and sick and whatnot. You begin to feel what they're feeling and you have it go in your own system. While compassionate understanding is you're able to experience the other person, but don't take it into yourself. And it's a very Buddhist understanding of non-identification. You know, it's accepting it, but being there with the person. And then you can even help more because you're not in pain too.
Yeah.
You are walking to help that person. You know, just like with the visas. I mean, my life goes on. I don't go and cry and make a big fuss and whatnot. I understand and I give my support, yeah? Does
Awesome.
that make sense?
It makes sense. And that's exactly, you just summarized all the three types of empathy we just talked about in that same space, because you can empathize without embracing, and you can add value to the situation by showing that kind of support. So
They call it radical compassion or unitive compassion, meaning that you're able to embrace and feel without becoming less.
absolutely. Thank you, Nina. All right, great. So we move on to still under empathy. We have what we call the emotional awareness. And emotional awareness is knowing when feelings are present in ourselves and others. This is very important because when we are in a room, we know when we able to know when feelings are present because you will hear from the tone. You can, if you're a professor and you're teaching students, you can feel if they're just looking at you and everything you say, right? So if I see somebody chewing a pen, or somebody scratching, or somebody going, right? Emotional awareness is knowing when feeling is present. It is closely related to emotional literacy, which means that being able to label feeling with specific words. It's very important, and you will understand why. The reason is because if we are able to name a feeling with a word, we are able to recognize it in its form. So this chart you see here is what it was designed by a group, and they call it Blanchard wheel. Now, there's so many emotions that we express on daily basis. So for instance, I will always ask my students, cast your mind back to how did you feel yesterday? The whole of yesterday, when you finish your day, how did you feel yesterday? You know, so let me do a quick exercise. Yesterday, how did you feel? Awesome. All right, so if you look on the chart, you know, we'll see a word which is similar or closer to awesome, right? So you will realize that as you name how you felt, you didn't just get up to say awesome. You cast your mind back to the reason why you felt awesome. Because something unique or specific happened to you to recognize that as awesome. Somebody will say, I felt very annoyed. Not just because you are trying to be superhuman being, because remember I mentioned that we are human beings and so we have emotions. If you feel upset, you will upset. But what this does is that it gives you the opportunity to visualize a word how you felt. And that helps you to have that kind of perspective. So that's why we don't have time to go through this process. Otherwise, you will see I put some questions that when you think about a recent challenging or situation, how did you experience that strongly in this time? But we don't have time to go through that process. So let's move on to the next one, which is the social skills. Now, social skills are important. And the reason it's important is because it influences how you build relationship and rapport with people. You cannot be emotionally intelligent if you don't have a relationship with people. Unfortunately, you have to appreciate that because social skills are the abilities to enable us to interact and communicate effectively with other people. And the reason is because it helps us to build that interpersonal relationships. I guarantee you that some of you today probably will be the last time you will ever see each other again for the next 30 years. Or today will be the only time you will have that exchange or relationship for many years to come. Whereas some of you, this is just the beginning of long-term relationship. It only takes a social skill to do that. I was sharing with Romain that you can walk into a beautiful gathering like we've had in the last couple of days, and you go back and you go about your normal life and you don't even remember the names of anybody you met here. But you travel all the time. So if you know me and you get to Washington, D.C. airport, they say, Sammy, I'm in your country. Wherever I am, I will come and see you. Right? That is the expectation. This is where social skills come in. We develop relationship because we want to think of the long term, right? Long term. So it's very important we keep that in perspective. Now, why is emotional intelligence important in social skills? Because when you look at the two definitions, we said emotional intelligence is the ability to recognize, manage, and understand our emotions. Whereas social skills are the principal arm of those emotions because we pay attention to the relationships that is applied through the emotional awareness situations. And then this is an aspect or a component of social skills, what we call the car parts. First of all, it's about communication skills. If you want to build relationship with people, you first of all must develop a good communication skills. You must be able to have effective communication, both verbal and non-verbal. Because you can say one thing and your actions and your body is saying different thing altogether, right? Clear communication avoids misunderstanding and build trust. So always be very precise, speak clearly, and I tell my students all the time, there's nothing wrong to ask for understanding. Nina says that all the time. Did you understand what I just said? Say yes. You are validating the conversation to make sure, because professors will tell you, you tell students one thing and you give them instruction, and when you see the paper that is submitted to you, you wonder whether or not they were paying attention. Because we feel awkward asking for validation based on understanding. The other important thing is adaptability and flexibility. This involves changing situations and needs. It helps build resilient and strong relationships. Because if I am going to build a rapport with you, there are few things that I need to compromise. Remember, I mentioned that yesterday during our interaction, that as long as it is not a value-based situation, we can always compromise. We can meet halfway. Halfway to get, you don't get everything, but you get something that at the end of the day, we can compete against the problem and not ourselves, so that we can solve and work in that fine line. And I've mentioned many times that leadership is influence. And so if we want to use the social skills approach, I need to have an influence over you, you need to have an influence over me. And we need to make room to embrace those influences. Because I cannot be in a relationship with you and I'm the only one controlling. If I say, let's go, we go. But if you say, well, today can we party in my place? I say, no. But I want you to come and party with me all the time. If that's not the right approach, we should be able to have influence on each other as well. Conflict resolution. It means that resolving dispute and disagreements effectively. How? By remaining calm, being an active listener, and then also finding mutual benefits as we develop relationships among ourselves. And active listening. Yesterday I mentioned here in class that most of us listens to respond. In fact, research from American Psychological Association, APA, mentioned that, believe it or not, 87.4 people listen to respond. They do not listen to understand. Why is it that we listen to respond and not to understand things? Why do we listen to respond and we don't listen to understand? Why?
Because we want to be ready to continue the conversation.
Because we want to be ready to contribute to the conversation. Yes. To defend our thoughts. What else? Because we are unaware of our own feelings. Absolutely, yes, on this side. Say it's okay. There's no right or wrong answer.
Hide our ignorance.
To hide our ignorance because we fail to embrace our vulnerabilities. And so we are always, imagine for 1 second, that you are supposed to be on campus or be in lectures at a certain time, or you are supposed to be in the office at a certain particular time, and you are running late, and your professor is waiting for you, or your project person is waiting for you, and you run late. As soon as you get there and you are trying to explain, see the reaction. They will, okay, can we get on? We're already late, right? So what happens is that we are quick to respond when we are talking or when people are talking to us. Some of you may realize that people even finishes your sentences before you finish it. Because we don't listen to understand. Again, if you didn't learn anything at all in this class, one of the things that I want you to walk away with from this summer is to learn to listen to understand. It is an active way of listening. And to do so, always allow people when they talk to you, let them finish their statement. I was saying with Dina that my son knows that when you are talking, I don't have to interrupt you. And when you finish talking, he goes, thank you for taking time to share this perspective with me. Have you looked at it from this angle? It's an active listening. Because listen, you can be nodding, you can be smiling. How many of you have talked to people and they are listening, they are nodding, and then they ask you a question that you realize that this person was not listening to me at all. At all. You know, they will help me. Yes, Corina, go ahead.
I can give you an example.
Please.
I have a colleague that seems to always want to finish my
Your statement.
I'm a person who speaks slower, tries to be clear. I have a way of processing words and language in a monotasking way, one thing at a time, one after the other. And he always got on my nerves because he kept interrupting me and wanting to finish my sentences. And I felt very disrespected by this. You know, he was also a man. I took it very personally as a woman. How dare you? But as I got to know him, I understood that he had not only a multitasking manner of engaging the world, but higher processing speed of engaging whatever he was perceiving from the environment. Many ADHD kids have that very much. And at the same time, he had also a higher level of social anxiety. So in order to calm his discomfort, he interrupted people to finish to get rid of his discomfort. And once I understood this, it was no longer about myself. It was no longer about my feelings and needs and wish to be heard and to be seen. But it was about how can we establish a way of communicating that is respectful for both sides.
Absolutely. So this is a classic example of self-awareness because she became aware of herself and realized that it's not about her. It's not disrespectful to her to think initially how she felt. Well, then you try to finish my sentences. Are you in my head? But when she became much aware, and then it goes back to active listening, as I was saying. Because at the end of the day, once you are able to appreciate and understand perspectives, there's a course that I teach called perspective talking. You know, it's using storytelling as in mass communication. You will realize that in perspective talking, you allow people to share their perspective without disrespecting them, without interrupting them. You give them the room to express the way they feel and they talk about things. But guess what? After they finish saying that, you share with them another perspective, and then we meet in the middle, right? So teamwork is also one of the tools that you get when you use social skills concepts. All right, so this is the model that I talked about, and I developed that from scratch. I added this model to the 5 components of Daniel Goleman. And this is called emotional contagion. Now, what is emotional contagion? Now, emotional contagion is the phenomenon where emotions spread from one person to the other, often unconsciously and automatically. Right? So when you walk into the room and you start smiling, guess what? Everybody starts smiling. Natural. Even if something distracted you, but because I started smiling, you'll be smiling. If your professor walked into the room with a straight face, unhappy look, then there's tension in the room. Those of you who have spouses, you realize that when one spouse walked into the house or come back from work and is unhappy, the whole house is unhappy. Whether you pay attention or not, something is missing in the house. The reason is what we call emotional contagion. We are affected and impacted by the people or the things around us, the environment, the people we work at, the mood of people. It all forms part of that emotional contagion. And why is it so? Because you feel energized around people who are very enthusiastic. That's why those who play basketball, you have cheerleaders and you have a cheer team. Why do you think they do so? They do so because they are bringing positive energy to the team. So even though you are losing, whenever there's a break time, you see them come and dance to bring energy to the room. But meanwhile, you are still losing, right? It's because of emotional contagion. Now, when a worker or a co-worker is stressed, that stress can also make you feel anxious. Again, permit me to still use Anna Maria or Ramona as an example. If they are managing the whole department and they are stressed, it means that all the faculty will be stressed because there's pressure coming from the top to her and she has to trickle down that pressure to the faculty. Well, we used to do this, we are no longer going to do it. Don't ask me why. So there's tension in the room, right? That automatically affects everybody. The same way laughter is genuinely contagious. How many of you have been watching a movie and suddenly you start crying? Movie, you know that there are about 50 cameras. Everything there is fiction, but you cry, right? It's because it is also contagious. And when something is contagious, believe it or not, it happens in 20 milliseconds. By the time you have a facial expression with people, in 20 milliseconds, you are already being impacted. So you have to be very careful as a leader to make sure you pay attention to some of these things. And again, this is neuroscience. Everything psychology is neuroscience. And the reason is that at a part of our brain, we have what we call the mirror neurons. And these cells, they fire both when we act and when we observe others acting. So as soon as I start dancing, all of a sudden, even though you can pretend not paying attention to me, you start singing in your mind or in your brain, or quietly, you'll be mimicking something going on because, we must be very happy, So these things, they trigger, and there is also what we call the facial mimicry. Unconsciously, you copy, that's why I just talked about, unconsciously copy facial expressions within milliseconds. It happens quickly when you see somebody doing something with their face. Suddenly, if you're not careful, you start mimicking the same thing. It happens all the time. And so the rest, I will probably skip them because of time, but I'll share this slide as well. So there are different types of emotional contagion. And the 3 primary ones is what we refer to as automatic contagion, conscious contagion, and then symbolic contagion. So automatic contagion. 1, you recognize the involuntary nature of automatic emotion responses. It also identifies the physical manifestation of automatic. So that's why I give the example that as I walk in and I started singing and rolling and laughing, you start doing the same thing because it happens automatically. Understand the evolution and social functions of the emotional mimicry. And then it also have to develop awareness of unconscious assumptions. Now, the reason this is important is because you unknowingly affect people without paying attention to that. And so that's why, as a leader, you have to be very careful because people will copy you without you knowing, influencing them. You have to, when the first time you come to class unprepared, your students will start coming to class unprepared. When you give assignment and you don't ask them, well, I give you an assignment, everybody submit the assignment, and you say, oh, well, it's okay, it's okay. Well, the next time they will not do the assignment again because they automatically get you to know your style of leading. And then the conscious contagion. Now, this helps you to distinguish between intentional and unintentional adaptation. There are people who are very intentional. They just want to influence you in a certain way. Right? So there's some, they will dress in such a way and manner to get your attention. Like a man who have seen a girl and wanted to get the lady's attention. Put on some nice cologne, speak in a certain way, look flashy, rolling his Mercedes-Benz keys, just for you to know, try to get your attention. It is part of the person may not speak or talk to you, but the person have observed that you pay attention to him. And so they always will portray themselves in a manner that will get your attention without you knowing. And conscious contagion also helps you to develop strategic empathetic skills for specific contexts. Now, when you apply this in your professional settings, what happens is that you are conscious of influencing the people you lead. And this is specifically for managers, leaders, or people you influence, because you are consciously trying to influence them with a specific thing. The last point on this is what we call the symbolic contagion. Now, I talked about how you recognize how stories and narrative trigger emotional responses. So you're watching some movie, and the movie is going interestingly, and then all of a sudden something happens in the movie and it triggers you. Without realizing it, you see water flowing from your cheek. It is the symbolic contagion. That is what is happening. Identify the emotional impact of visual and auditory symbols. That is why I will always tell my students, be very careful of the songs you listen to. Believe it or not, it will have an impact on you. Because as you listen to the lyrics of the song, you may think, oh, well, I love the rhythm, and instead of rhythm, I'm enjoying. But suddenly you realize that you start speaking the words of that song. It comes from symbolic contagion. And then understanding the media role in a large-scale emotional contagion. And this actually, that those of you in mass communication, you will realize the importance of this. Why? Because social media, the things you read on social media, affects you all of a sudden because there is something they call trending. So all of a sudden, you also start trending because you saw your friends driving on the street with a fancy car, or they wearing some nice clothes. So you go to Victoria's Secret store and you also take the dress and you wear, and you take a picture at Victoria's Secret and you come and you post it on your social media. Look at some new stuff I got, but you never got them. You only took the picture at the store. Symbolic contagions. You are being influenced. That's, we usually refer them as social proof, because because you saw Rihanna wearing it, it means that it is legit. Yes. It may not be, and that's what marketing folks use to get you to buy things from them, because I remember those online can attest, back in the early 90s in Ghana, there used to be an advert of Guinness. And there was this guy called Michael Powell. He does the Guinness advert. It turns out that he doesn't even drink alcohol.
Yeah.
You know, but it's so strange when you drink Guinness, it's also social proof. Right, so, yes.
A reality check about time.
Yes, we are on schedule. Yes, we are on schedule. So, contagion process, what is the process? How does these emotions spread? So, let's look at this example. The trigger event. Person A experiences an emotion. The expression is that the emotion is displayed through your facial, body language, or tone. What is the perception? Person B unconsciously notices this signal, and then the mimicry, which is the person B, automatically mimics the expression. Right? So this is how the process works. And then feedback loop. Physical mimicry triggers corresponding emotions in the B, and then it amplifies and intensifies that back and forth interaction with people. So that's why you must always be very careful around people, because they will influence you one way or the other by their emotions and by their expression, especially the facial expression. It will pick you up quick. It will pick quickly. There's positive emotional contagion, and there's a negative emotional contagion. Everything there's good and bad, depending on how you look at it. So the bright side of emotional spread, it builds social bonds and connection. If I get into a room and I'm able to pull people together, why not? It's a strength. We utilize it. It also increases team cohesion and collaboration, because we are able to get things done together. And if you look at the negative side is that it stresses and brings anxiety that spread through the entire group. If the team leader is unhappy, all of us become unhappy. Somebody begin to yell and the meeting gets distracted. So this is something that I thought that it worth sharing with all of you as I wrap up this presentation on emotional intelligence. Any question, any comment? I think I've spoken a lot, so any questions so far? Well, one of my professors taught me that if you teach a class and there are no questions, either everything you said is a bit of nonsense, or they understood very well. So if there's any question I'd like to answer, any question going one, going two? All right, great. Yes, you have a question?
I want to talk about some of the impact. Say, it's like you cannot know the feeling of others. But I have experience that I don't know the feeling of others. Like when I was talking to journalists, I supposed to make people talk of their feelings. So if somebody, maybe a woman, lost a husband, they just go there, sitting for me for 2 days and investigate the situation, how you feel, if they're going to lose the property, or maybe because if they don't know one who can help to write the baby. So because like in Tanzania, they can take like 2 or 3 days before the burial. Then I'll just go and sit near to the window, just not crying. Just start crying, what do you cry? So I know that the way you lose my husband, maybe you are going to lose everything, maybe they take your property, or maybe I just feel the best day I lose my husband, it's like this, I lose everything. But you know that some people help me. So after, like the burial, they just look at me. So what you did after when you lose your husband, where you go to get your rights, okay? To get the property, to get everything. So I say, you know, there are some people who know how to help, there are association for women lawyers helping people to do that? Or do you want you to write, me to write this always question, the way they are abusing you, the way they are just like planning to take all property from you? They say, okay, you can write. Or sometimes they say, no, you cannot write, but I still need your help. So if they want me to write, just send it for the newspaper. If they don't like me to write, I just connect them with the association which helping the people to get the right. Also, if I go to the girl who they can have a sexual abuse, I just let them sit there for like 2 days. Then I start saying, my uncle was very bad. When I was very young, my uncle was doing like this and this. Oh, even my father was doing like this. So the girls trust you. I say, what you did? Say, the first time when they go to my bishop or for there and start talking. So it's like he help them to talk. Yeah. Instead of just being silent, help them to talk and direct them to the proper way they can get the help.
Okay.
So it's how we deal with the hostile source. I don't know if it was good or what is not bad.
Well-
but use empathy to get the experience, to get the feeling, to get those people to speak about what they suffer from.
Yeah,
That's what
no, I hear you. We can show empathy, but we don't have to distort the truth and the facts. As soon as we distort truth and fact, then we are coercing and manipulating, and we don't want that. What we do is that we can, from what we've learned today, we know how to empathize with people. We know how to help them. We know how to support them. But at the same time, we must also make sure that we handle the situation in a way and manner that we don't want, because you can see, I didn't go a little deeper because of time, because there's a difference between empathy and sympathy.
Mhm.
And if you're not careful in your empathetic self, you start sympathizing with people. And as soon as you dive into that route, it's a whole different game altogether. So, yeah. All right, if there's no other question, I think I want to thank all of you for allowing me to introduce this course to you. Thank you. All right, great. So to that point, I think now we will be wrapping up. Anna Maria stepped out. Okay. We'll be wrapping up. So maybe why don't we just take 5 minutes to stretch? We don't have to go anywhere, just stretch, relax, and then we'll have a nice closing ceremony. We have some certificates here we'll present as well, and then we wrap it up for the day. Thank you.